Happy New Year. Christmas has come and gone. Hope you guys had a good time. I had one. Excuse me a minute. What is your problem? I'm doing a show. You want ice cream? You just had dog biscuits. Look, I'm doing a show. Oh, you mad because I had ice cream last night? I ain't got time for you, man. I'm busy. I ain't got time for this, all right? Just leave me alone. It's just sound effects. Yeah, all right. I'm busy. People, can you imagine having made family plans? You had your first child, and you move into a city of promise. You hear all about the beautiful things and the world's largest mall. I think you know where I'm going with this. You got an $18 billion surplus, close to 3 years ago. And now you're there. Kids just graduated from school, you know? And now you got a $6 billion deficit. Well, that's what has happened in the state of Minnesota. You know, Governor Tim Walz, Mr. Pondon. Woo! What a caper. What a caper. Who would ever have... They say that this Somalia crisis is the worst in American history. I've been doing a little research off and on, just like you. And today I ran into a video by a gentleman I met at the DNC. Yeah, Nick Shirley, a few years ago, DNC. He's interviewed me for a few times, and we've come to be respectable friends in the field. And he did a 40-plus minute expose. And he met a gentleman named David. Now, David, for years, he doesn't get one red cent. He's taken the time to investigate the political aspect of this missing money, put it in quotes, and the businesses that Somalia has allegedly been running, many with nobody in it. I know that sounds crazy. Crazy. It sounds crazy. Now, maybe I should kind of read this information to you first. The Somalians were issued money in Minnesota for child care centers, transportation companies, adult care center, autism. Many of these places had multiple daycare centers in buildings, but there was nobody there. Yeah. And multiple healthcare centers in one building, but doors locked and nobody there. It is the most blatant, fraudulent crime I've, in all my years of back and forth in our journalism, I have to ask myself beyond how did this happen, and graduated to why did it happen. And I have a theory, okay? And that theory is, it is to help sink the ship of the Midwest. Because what I did, I went and I did some research. And I looked at Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas City, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, Ohio, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. What if I told you over 50% of those states have a budget deficit? Now, I don't know if anybody else has done this research, but I've been doing this research for about a month now. Ever since this story hit, I'm like, something doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So let me go down my list and I'm going to show you some videos. Again, we've got child care centers. Then they got this thing called a non-emergency medical transportation, where the Somalians bought vans. And according to this guy named David, who Nick Shirley transported around from place to place, from his research, there are over 1,020 companies that offer non-medical transportation. Dentist, doctor, that kind of that sort of thing. Well, out of the 1,020 companies of non-emergency medical services, get this, over 800 are Somalia owned. Let's just round it up. You got 1,000 non-medical transportation businesses. Over 800 are owned by Somalians. People, where's Doge when you need him? I got to keep it real. Where's Doge when you look? At this point, Trump should have, after Elon Musk left Doge this year, they should have sent, what's that little kid's name? Big Balls. Y'all heard of Big Balls? Yeah, look, there's a guy named Big Balls. He works for the Doge research group, finding waste, fraud, and abuse. There's a guy named Big Balls. I think they should have sent Big Balls to Minnesota and run the guy with the financial problems, the governor, the better half of Kamala Harris, Tim Walz. He should have done a little audit over there. Now, let me look at some other stuff that I have. David, who you're going to meet, again, he doesn't make a red cent out of this. He has been threatened with a knife, and just last week, he got jumped on by three Somalians. He says they're a very tight-knit group that don't talk to strangers. They only talk amongst themselves. And it was able to be a secret for a long time until Trump rode in on his white horse and became president. Now, y'all know I believe in good cop, bad cop. Well, you got dirty cop and you got dirtier cop. That's the way I look at it. Because to me, it's bigger than just Democrat, although this happened by and large under a Democratic system. I guess they were all out at, went and had a budget for CNI dogs. That's the only excuse I can give them. Now, can you imagine Nick Shirley going to 3, 4, 5 daycare centers and ain't no kids there? And only one person opened the door out of the 5 or 6 they went? Broad daylight, knocked on the door. It's hard for me to even tell you this. So I'm going to show you in a minute because I feel like keeping you in suspense. The same thing at the adult care center. Then they got autism. Somalians they have autism centers. Where are people at? Where are people at? And people, look, if you want to know the range of the budget that Minnesota's giving them, that they're allocating, the low ball is $800,000 a year to over $2.3 million for these places. But Nick Shirley went down there, and David running him around Minnesota, and then they interviewed a few people. They've never seen any occupants in any of these places. People, that's impossible. That's just impossible. In one building, they have 14 healthcare facilities in one building. No patients. Then they got 22 healthcare facilities too. So the government of Minnesota is just writing checks with no checks and balances. That'd be a nice T-shirt, right? No checks on the back, no checks and balances. How about that's a new shirt for Minnesota, new sweatshirt. One daycare, get this, one daycare had a budget of $2.5 million and was closed down for city violations. The very next day, they opened up again. You hear me? Under a new name. This is all. I'm going to put the video in the description. It's unbelievable, the findings. And again, like I started off the show, 2+ years ago, they had an $18 billion surplus. Now they got a $6 billion deficit. And according to David, there are forms that are signed off in advance by people in government of Minnesota for services never rendered. Can you imagine that? This is the claim. This is what this guy, he did the research. He said there are forms signed by government people. I guess they call them bean counters. You know how we are, right? Sign the checks, but they're not verifying that anybody's working, and there isn't anybody working. But the thing is, they sign off the checks in advance. Let me just begin. This is the most bizarre case of fraud and abuse I've ever reported on, ever. So let's start. Here's Nick Shirley in front of one of the daycare centers now. Check it out.
Massive fraud is taking place within the government and the Somali population. Here, this building alone, Quality Learning Center, is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong, and they said leering. This daycare alone in 2025 has received $1.9 million from the government. And the strange things about these childcare centers is there's no one here right now. It's midday on a weekday. If you were to try to go inside, it's completely closed and the windows are all blacked out. No one's working, midday, children should be in here, and this place is licensed for 99 children, and this is the outside. There's no windows, no nothing, and like I said, they literally spelled the word wrong on their sign. This is open and blatant fraud taking place here inside of Minnesota. The government is complicit with this, and this is just one of the hundreds of child daycare centers here inside of Minneapolis being ran by the Somali population.
That's unbelievable. Just people, anybody with a business background know that can't happen unless you have a pyramid chain of people in place that are in on the scheme. And the question is why? And I'm looking beyond culture and race and everything else. I'm looking at the powers trying to implode the Midwest. I just told you, I did research on all the states in the Midwest. Over half of them have a deficit issue. So I'm wondering If I go state by state 50, are we all in the same boat? Because what I'm getting at is that you guys know I've been talking about the NWO and the one world system. What better way to implode it than through the money? They just got Somalians allegedly as the tool to do it. Think about what I'm saying. Now, here's David. Check it out.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
I don't think anybody is enabling fraud to happen.
Governor Walz accountable for this.
What was this money spent on? 1.26 million. What was that money spent on? Are there any kids?
Answer the question. Are there children? There's no children inside the building. Potentially the largest.
Let me slow it down. I know, right? Let's go back. Here we go.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
I don't think anybody is enabling fraud to happen.
Governor Walz accountable for this.
What was this money spent on? 1.26 million. What was that money spent on? Are there any kids?
Answer the question. Are there children? There's no children inside this building. Potentially the largest fraud scandal in U.S. history is taking place in Minnesota, as literally billions of dollars have been funneled through Somali-ran fraud businesses. So much fraud, it could actually almost replace the entire GDP of Somalia. These fraudsters have worked hand in hand with the Minnesota government as they enabled billions of dollars to be given to fraudulent businesses underneath welfare purposes. Some of this money eventually landed in the hands of terrorist groups in Somalia like the Al-Shabaab, and others enriched themselves all at the US taxpayers' expense. And in this video we will break down all of the fraud from start to finish, from going to the fraudulent businesses and confront.
For those of you all who are history buffs and at my age, remember the quote unquote Contra scandal? Money allegedly being used to fund rebels in a war overseas. Do you get that vibe? Something wrong, people. Something wrong. You'll hear, this is a government official just came out of a meeting. Then you're going to see a gentleman that was at the meeting who's trying to ask questions. He's hurt. He's challenged, but listen to his heart. He's aching. Watch this.
You print that.
Thank you for coming today.
Okay.
Crazy.
Well,
This
saw what happened there.
state of Minnesota that we live in, and these politicians are just walking off, thinking it's okay Tuesday, and they want to go visit the Trump. They want to blame the Trump administration. We have Democrats blaming ICE. I'm tired. My people are suffering. I'm scared for my little brother. My people are suffering, and these people just walk off. We have a governor who fucking doesn't care. How many more people are gonna freaking die?
Silence is golden, isn't it? What do we do in America? How did we get here? I've said in other videos that there was a famous leader back in the day. I think he was from the Soviet Union. I want to say it was Gorbachev. He said, when it's time to take over America, I won't fire one shot. That always stayed with me.
See how it goes? And there is some new pressure today on Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, as the feds say that fraud in his state could total $9 billion, up from the estimate of $1 billion. This thing is just absolutely exploding. We heard the $1 billion estimate a few weeks ago.
The magnitude of the fraud in Minnesota cannot be overstated. It's staggering amounts of money that have been lost. But it's not just about the money that's been stolen and wasted. This is a problem that's caused all of us to question what kind of state we live in.
So now almost 100 Minnesota mayors have written to Governor Walz and state lawmakers. Quote, fraud, unchecked spending, and inconsistent fiscal management in St. Paul have trickled down to our cities, reducing our capacity to plan responsibly, maintain infrastructure, hire and retain employees, and sustain core services without overburdening local taxpayers. Two of those mayors.
That's my point. I believe that's the plan, and I think that it's spelled out throughout the United States that creating a financial crisis with the omission of oversight, such as this Somalia issue, puts a squeeze on taxes / homeowners. And budgets have bloated to the point now, the mayors, all these mayors, 100-something mayors in Minnesota. I don't want to sound harsh, but I think every last one of those businesses, if David is right, he's done his own independent investigation, and he's talked to public figures, so it's not just him gathering information from the internet. He's talked to political figures. He's been in and out of politics in terms of researching for a while, because he said he's got friends in the political spectrum, and he's gotten bona fide documentation, and the internet information he's gotten is on Minnesota's website. All those businesses, or at least the majority of those businesses, are on the website. It tells you how much the budget is allocated for, and how many children should have been up in those daycares, for example, and nobody up in there. All those businesses should be closed immediately. And it should be taken over, as much as I hate it, by Trump, and have a 60-day mini Doge department. Take it over, and every manager who was involved in that, running the fraudulent business, not just the 3 that you saw that they putting all over the news internationally, every manager, because as a manager, I used to have to sign off on invoices, which means if I stole something, I'm involved in the theft, in the caper. If you're running a medical facility, if you're running a transportation, non-emergency medical transportation business, if you're running anything in terms of the autism, you bought vans, you did something. If there's anything that connect them to financial, do these people just like you do the drug dealers in the black community and in the Latin community and poor white communities. You go after their businesses, you go after their homes, you go after their cars, you gut it out. Tell me what you think in the comment section. You gut it out, and you recoup some of that money. That's what you do.
I didn't see this coming. Y'all ready?
I don't know if you guys are following this scandal in Minnesota, the Somalis that ripped off our people there. But it's gotten worse. And it's high profile because Governor Walz was running for vice president in the last election cycle, and he let this happen. He knew it was happening, didn't do anything to stop it because he was afraid of looking for him. And it really does demonstrate the liberal.
This would have been the vice president of the United States. If Trump wasn't elected.
I'm not going to ask you what you think, but I'll throw it in there anyway. Should Walsh resign? Now let's look at this thing, another aspect. Here's the mother of Nick Shirley. I met her, pleasant woman. Look at this in terms of housing. Watch this.
Realtor reached out to me to tell me about another way that Somalians are scamming Minnesotans out of their taxpayer dollars.
Now she's talking about the realtors. She's talking about the realtors, how they're scamming taxpayers out of their taxpayers' dollars.
Here in Minnesota, a local realtor reached out to me to tell me about another way that Somalians are scamming Minnesotans out of their taxpayer dollars. In her community alone, Somalians have bought up over 455 homes. They buy these homes, claiming they're turning these homes into home health care centers. She says the way we know Somalians have bought these homes is because all of a sudden extremely nice cars start showing up. Mercedes, BMWs, the nicest cars are parked in the driveway. And she said by law, the state will not come out and inspect these homes and make sure these homes even have clients living in these homes. She also said, as a realtor, she cannot disclose to people wanting to buy homes in this neighborhood that Somalians have bought that home and they're using that as a home health care center. She said these homes can even take people in who've just been released from jail, and the neighborhood does not need to know about this. But she says many of these homes do not.
So they got the realtor on gag order. Like I told you from the beginning of this video, there's a power play in place starting from the top. I'm Crenshaw Pearson.